DJ PK, and we're joined by Sean Callahan, publisher of Husker Online, part of On3.com. Sean, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Sean, you'll have to forgive us. We're a little distracted. We kind of forgot there was a game.
Yeah, it kind of has that feel. I mean, obviously both teams have been out here all week, but there just isn't a lot of buzz and stuff. And obviously with what you guys have, I mean, Utah shows up to Vegas with Kyle Whittingham, and I think he addressed the team at their team hotel before taking off to Michigan. So it's been an odd bowl week with even some of the opt-outs and other things that you're kind of trying to figure out as we get into to tomorrow.
Yeah, we see that Utah came into it. I haven't seen the latest line.
14.
I'll be 14, yeah. I'll be in Vegas soon enough to cover this game, and I won't bet a penny because that's not who I am. But I was surprised it was that big. But, you look at Nebraska without their quarterback, Raiola, taken off, and I know they've had some other situations. I think they had an injury to their best defensive back safety who's not going to play, and so there's a little bit thing going on. But from the Nebraska perspective, how ready are they to be able to meet the challenge that Utah presents?
Yeah, they're missing a lot of guys. I mean, Emmett Johnson, All-American running back of the year in the Big Ten. No Dylan Raiola. Yeah. Rocco Spindler was their one of the higher-profile O-line transfers from Notre Dame, and he's out for this game. And then Deshaun Singleton's probably their best defender and captain, and he's not playing. And then Deshaun McCullough, who was a high-priced addition they brought in from the transfer portal, who's played at Indiana and Oklahoma before getting to Nebraska. So those guys are out. I think the thing that's hard to gauge is the quarterback, TJ Lateef. The UCLA game, he looked really good. He could run, he can move. And then he had to play at Penn State, and then he played Iowa. And they were cold weather games, physical defensive games, and then he hurt his hamstring in the Iowa game. So he didn't look particularly great in those two games. They say he's healthy. It's, indoor stadium. Weather's not going to be an issue for him. So I think he's the guy that if Nebraska has a chance to make this a game, it's on Lateef and how well he plays. And, just being a Big Ten team, I think Big Ten teams, the style in this league is a little bit different. I would expect they're going to try to run the ball when you see Utah gave up so many rushing yards late in the year, especially in that Kansas State game where, they gave up almost 500 rushing yards to the Wildcats and were able to win that game still. But you'd have to think with their, even without Emmett Johnson, they've got a couple of young running backs they're going to try to get going in this game.
Nebraska started 6-2. They're 7-5. It didn't go well down the stretch. November was pretty rough. What went wrong in November? Was it as simple as the quarterback, losing a quarterback for the last 3 games? Are there other things, and is there something that Utah can attack that everybody was picking on in November?
Yeah, it really changed in the USC game. They were up by 7. They had the ball around the 30, and then Dylan Raiola gave up a sack, a fumble, and his season was over at that point. Nebraska at that point, if they were going to win the game on that drive and go up by 2 scores on USC in the fourth quarter, and that's an 8-2 Nebraska team at that point because they would have still beat UCLA the next week before going to Penn State and Iowa. So that moment really changed their season. They've struggled with their defensive alignment and their front. They just got torched on the ground at Penn State and then against Iowa where they just weren't able to slow down. So that's the matchup in this game you got to worry. Well, Matt Rule fired his defensive coordinator, fired his defensive line coach, and they've done a lot of shifting around. They have a new D coordinator. He's not coaching this game, Rob Orich from San Diego State. But I expect Nebraska to probably line up a little bit differently. Phil Snow, former Carolina Panthers D coordinator, has been the interim DC. They moved Mike Eckler, who was a former Tennessee, USC, Georgia coach. He's been the special teams coordinator here, but he's one of their best defensive coaches on the staff. He didn't coach any defense. He's now coaching the D-line with Matt Rule. Matt Rule has been coaching the D-line with Eckler. So they have been all hands on deck with this defensive line approach. And we'll see if it makes any difference because that has been the issue. The key stats on Nebraska's defense, only 11 sacks this year, and they only have 6 interceptions. So they have not gotten the quarterbacks good or very well at all, and then they have not been able to force very many interceptions on the back end.
Yeah, what's crazy as you try to evaluate that, you've got those stats there, and that's not good enough. But at the same time, Utah is going to be without two of its NFL offensive linemen right there, and one of them, Fano, who's probably going to be a top 10 pick, very well could be expected to be the first offensive lineman taken in this draft, and Lomu also a first-round pick we're anticipating. So you got that going on there. So you don't really know. That's what's crazy about these bowl games now is they're almost like the first game of next season because it seems like, and maybe the playoff teams don't have it, but it seemed like everybody else, and in particular Utah and Nebraska, who we're talking about, got so many significant changes. Do we really know what to anticipate because there's going to be so much new personnel?
No, I agree, and some of the changes and that tackle matchup, I'm really going to be zoning in on that because Nebraska does have two pretty good Russians. I mean, Williams Winery is a former 5-star. He's a redshirt freshman, and he's been coached up now all month, and they're going to probably line him up differently, is my guess. And then Keona Davis is an NFL guy on the edge, so they'll have two guys that will line up, on the edges. And if Utah's tackles aren't ready for that, I mean, that could be a matchup that could change things in this game without those two tackles playing for the Utes. I wouldn't, as a better, the line is huge. I mean, it seems. I would say Utah more by 7.5 feels more right than 14. But a lot of that depends on Latif, and if Latif plays well in this game for Nebraska. But again, what's the Whittingham distraction too? I mean, they've done a great job. I talked to Morgan Scally on the 26th, and he's a great guy, and you can tell the players like him. But what kind of distraction is that going to be for this team, just having all that going on as they got to the bowl trip?
The question that can't be answered, it's why we watch the games right there, right? How quickly can the players flip the switch and move on? Defensively, I would think it's pretty quick because he's been the defensive coordinator. He's a consistent voice. Maybe it's a little different on the offensive side of the ball, especially with all the rumors about the coordinator leaving. And I wonder how unsettling it is. We've seen bowl games in the past, and maybe you have too, where coaches are either looking for jobs, are about to take jobs, or have taken jobs, and it doesn't usually go well.
Yeah, it can be a big distraction, and especially if you're an assistant coach and you're leaving, and you're when you get back to your hotel, your time is spent talking to your new boss or your new school, trying to figure things out because the bowl game in the grand scheme of it's not that big of a deal for what's next. And have they even said at this point how many coaches are going to go with Whittingham? Or are there going to be some players that go to Michigan? Yep. I mean, those are all things that are going to happen pretty quickly, I think, when this game ends.
Scally has a track record of applying pressure, blitzing, and I think he's really, really good at what he can do. We've seen it. We saw it against the Heisman Trophy-winning quarterback Williams when they played SC, is they line up and I talked to him about it on the field after the Pac-12 title game a few years back as they were setting up to do the awards ceremony and all that stuff, and he was just standing off to the side, and we've known him. A funny thing that you probably can't use, but I'll just throw it at you. So when he gets done, he graduates with that Fiesta Bowl team, right, and that BCS busting team, and then he waits a year before he goes into coaching. And you know what he did? He did sports radio, and this show that he had started at 10 o'clock right after our show ends. So for a year, we saw him every day in the studio. And that's how long we've known him. And he was a local high school kid here. And we think the world of him. And so it's cool to see what he does to apply pressure and make adjustments to the adjustments based on the adjustments that the offensive people make at the line of scrimmage. So with all that, and your head's probably spinning thinking, what's this guy talking about? How do you think that Nebraska will be able to handle the pressure, the quarterback, because Scally's going to bring it, and he's going to bring a bunch of guys?
What's funny about that sports radio, Bill Bush was his position coach. Well, my coworker that I work with at On3 and Husker Online, Steve Sipple, does a radio show now in Lincoln with Bill Bush, a former Utah coach that coached Morgan Scally. And we joked about that when he got here. But, yeah, the pressure thing, I think what they're going to do is just get rid of the ball quickly. The real problems Nebraska had with Dylan Raiola this year was he held the ball too long. I mean, 4-second-plus type holds where he just wouldn't throw it away, or he tried to do the Mahomes stuff, and it just didn't work well for him. When Dylan Raiola was successful, the ball got out quickly. So I do think with TJ Lateef, you're going to see Dana Holgerson really get the ball out quickly, move him around. Nebraska will be down, as I mentioned, that one offensive lineman, Rocco Spindler. Tyler Knack, coincidentally a former Utah Ute, will be starting at that guard position in the place of Rocco Spindler. So there is one Utah connection on this roster, but I think the key will be getting it out of his hand quickly, making him move around a little bit more. They're not going to just let TJ Lateef sit back there and hold it too long, is my guess.
In the Big Ten, how do people look at the Big Ten in this new era where money matters? We've all followed college football a long time. We know historically who the best programs were and who you could count on to be near the top of the league. But it seems like teams are making headway. Wisconsin, Michigan State have fallen well off the pace. Obviously, Indiana has broken out. Now Penn State and Michigan have new coaches. How do you assess the top of the league in kind of tiers as far as how stable a program and how things look for them over 2 or 3 years? Because I don't think we dare look any further than that.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon is positioned obviously very well with Ohio State. Those two programs, I mean, Cignetti, it's amazing what they're doing in Indiana with probably half the budget of Oregon, for what they're doing with their roster. But Oregon's gotten to a point where every offseason they can go out and just find the best free agents and buy them. I mean, Nebraska was the finalist for Isaiah World, the tackle from Nevada. And, I think the number got up to a point where Nebraska was in the 1 point whatever number, and Oregon just kept going higher, and they lost Isaiah World to Oregon at that point. So that's what they can do. I think USC is doing that too. I mean, the reports are that they paid their entire recruiting class essentially in advance, so they don't have to count that number against their rev share number. So Lincoln Riley and USC and their money has been a big thing as well. Michigan now moving forward, it'll be interesting to see how they come out of all this with a coaching change in the portal. I mean, we're seeing it in the Big 12 with Iowa State right now, just a disaster of the coaching change. They lost their entire roster. A lot of those guys are going to go to Penn State and whatnot. But Nebraska is well positioned. I mean, they're not in the Oregon, USC realm or Ohio State realm in terms of the money, but they're right below that. I mean, they will have about $25 million moving into next year. They'll have their full $15 million for football off rev share, and they're going to have another $10 million spun off from the Playfly sports deal that can be utilized for NIL, true NIL deals that would go through the clearinghouse, which that's kind of what a lot of these teams are doing, is trying to find a way to get that additional money you need, and they're taking their money that they would have received from the multimedia rights deal, and they're converting that into money that would be used for true NIL deals for their football players.
I know you can't speak for the entire league, but I'm kind of put you on the spot and ask you to do it anyway. In terms of what do you think the reception is of Kyle Whittingham coming into the league to be a head coach at Michigan, of all places?
Well, I think a lot of people have a lot of respect for him. I mean, I know when Nebraska's tried to hire coaches over the years, his name's always come up here. But yeah, what he's done, the consistency, and he's kind of been another version of Kirk Ferentz in terms of the longevity of what he's brought, the stability, the consistency. But I just don't know if anybody could have predicted that this move was going to happen. I mean, at first we're like, this is going to be kind of a retirement. He's done. And then quickly said, no, he's going into the transfer portal. But I think for Michigan, they came out of this as well as they could have, knowing, they were waiting on Kalen DeBoer, but that just wasn't going to happen. DeBoer wasn't going to leave his team in the middle of the playoff run. So if you don't get DeBoer, I think Whittingham is about as good as it gets, and he's going to provide that stability, the consistency that Michigan wants. He's going to play a physical style. My only question is, like, how versed is he at the level of roster building that it takes in the Big Ten with the money? Because in the Big 12, it's starting to get there with BYU and Texas Tech, but it's a high-level league here in terms of what you're going against in Ohio State and Oregon, and the type of recruiting and the type of NIL stuff you have to do off the field to kind of get your team to play at the highest level to be in the playoffs.
How long is it going to take for Nebraska to get back, or with the league change and the way everything has changed with NIL, or the glory days of the 90s, and there's a new world order now for the Huskers?
I mean, it's frustrating for the Nebraska fans because you really need to be about a 9-3 team to be in the playoffs. And they got to 7 this year, and they had every one of their losses. There were just things that you could, all right, they could have easily won the game against Michigan. They easily could have won the game against USC. I mean, that's the difference every year for Nebraska. They have these 1 or 2 games that take what could have been maybe a 9-win type year and knock it down to a 6 or 7-win type year. That's been the last couple of seasons for Nebraska. And they've got to figure out how to get over that hump. And it's a hard hump to get over because when you talk about playing a 9-game conference schedule, there's just not a lot of margin for error. I mean, you play a tough game every week. And we're going to learn a lot about the SEC when they switch to 9 games. I mean, I think the SEC has been able to kind of hide their teams a little bit more because of that extra non-conference game where everybody gets the extra win added to their season. That's going to be not going to be the case anymore. So that's going to be really fascinating to follow next year to see what the SEC looks like at this time when they add that extra win. But, yeah, it's been a struggle. I mean, this is the 15th year Nebraska's been in the Big Ten, and they've only qualified for the conference championship game one time, which when they entered the league, they were regarded as one of the top teams.
We will leave it right there, Sean. We appreciate the time. Enjoy the game, however it unfolds with whichever players are out there, and we'll see how that goes. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, guys. Happy New Year to you guys, and enjoy the game.
All right, Happy New Year. Sean Callahan, publisher of Husker Online, part of On3.com. The Utes favored by 14, and I got to agree with him. I don't know if I would have put it at 7.5 or 7 to 7.5, but I did think 9 or 10 tops. I was surprised to see it at 14. Struck me as a big number. I would
agree with that.
So much is written on the Utes running game, which rides on the O-line, and obviously we know, okay, well, you're going to be missing a couple guys there. I agree with what you said, that so often now this looks like the first game of next season. In more unfortunate times for some teams, it's a game hanging in the middle of nowhere because if next season is a new era, what the heck does this game have to do with anything? That's the worst case scenario. The Utes are in a better scenario that it feels more like the first game of next year.
Well, I think especially it's the first game of Morgan Scalley
Right.
being in charge,
Yep.
and you only get one time to make a first impression, as they say. And the thing about it is that the guys, particularly on the defensive side, I think it's not about sending the seniors out the right way. They've already done that. It's about starting off Scalley the right way. And guys like Barton, and I can go down the list. We all know the names, that they really, really want to win this game for this man and get him off going into the offseason, knowing that, hey, they won, they look good, he's our guy, it's a new era, we got all the confidence in the world of him, let's go be Utah football, and he'll add his own touch to it going forward in the coming years and all that. So I think that's another form of incentive for the Utes, particularly the defensive dudes, to make sure their guy gets off on that right start and then has some momentum going into the transfer season and all that.
And then there's the fact that they gave up 472 yards rushing to Kansas State and 290 to Kansas. So when do they get back to looking like a Utah defense against the run? Because those numbers
tomorrow
are
at 1:30. Yeah.
startling.
And their top guy for Nebraska is going to the NFL. And then they list, looking at their game notes, about 3 or 4 guys to be possibilities. And none of them have the true proven track record and all that stuff, but nevertheless they probably have some talent. So how's it going to be? And I think defensively, Fano's brother is the only one that's opted out. I don't know, maybe they might have some other guys coming out that don't play when we get to game time, but it looks like they should be able to control Nebraska's offense, so I'm expecting that. And the defense, the offense from Utah, I know that the offensive linemen are gone, but you still got some other guys in there. So I can see why they're favored. And I get that 14 seems like probably a little too high. I would never bet on the Utes to cover. I wouldn't bet anyway, but I don't think under this circumstance, if I did bet, I wouldn't bet on them to cover. But will I expect them to win the game? Yes.
Yeah, Nebraska hasn't come close to beating a team as good as Utah. And I think Northwestern and Cincinnati are probably their best wins. And obviously, the Cincinnati game was a semi-neutral field in Kansas City, but there were a ton of Nebraska fans there. And Cincinnati had to come to Utah and absolutely got blown out by the Utes. So,
and I think now that stuff is appropriate in terms of making evaluations. Like I saw Missouri.
Didn't beat a team with a winning record.
Yeah, I know. My gosh, are you kidding me? And we're supposed to think the SEC is all that. They get to 8 wins, and I realize you can stockpile a few in the non-conference.
4,
but 4 in their case. Yeah, half the win total. But they don't beat a team with a winning record, and now it's all said and done, man. That's just a fact, and that's not very impressive.
No, it is not. I've put out a tweet, and if not, I'll find it and send it out again. But somebody was comparing the numbers of Missouri, of LSU and Minnesota over like 5 years.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
that was frightening.
But one's got the name and one doesn't.
All right, when we come back, everything you missed in this show, plus some new stuff. We got an update on Jokic's health. We will get to that after he hyperextended his left knee yesterday. We will get to that coming up. Also, Yak is hip deep in the transfer portal. He's got news. Stay with us.